All right, it's time for the skinny on the refined fats and seed oils. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. So seed oils, what we need to understand, there's a lot of misinformation out there. They're actually not inflammatory. Like, they don't seem to cause direct inflammation in the body. However, they can contribute extremely substantially to obesity itself, which, again, the downstream effects of that is inflammation. So we need to be a little bit clear here when we talk about this, because, again, you see a lot of people who point out, inflammation. They try to discuss this whole issue with arachidonic acid and inflammation and omega-6s, but they completely miss the boat here. But they do catch it. There is this correlation, at least in the U.S., with the total increase in seed oil calories, right? The total increase in seed oil calories being correlated at least with obesity. And that's the interesting factor to look at, because that correlation is absolutely there. But we need to understand why that also then correlates with inflammation. It's almost entirely due to the obesity. It's not the seed oils. So I'll jump into in a minute how they actually cause fat gain easier. Okay, that's a separate topic. So on to the topic, though, of inflammation. The idea that omega-6 fatty acids are inflammatory in humans, at least in plant form, is debunked myth. It's not actually true. Okay? Not actually true. And a lot of that comes from this idea that arachidonic acid, one of the omega-6, is a non-essential one. Linoleic acid is the essential one. Is that linoleic acid can convert to arachidonic acid in humans at a high rate due to some rodent studies, and then us associating that with inflammation, because we know arachidonic acid, right? We know that arachidonic acid itself causes inflammation in humans. Now, the reality is, it turns out when we look at it closely, the pathway by which it does this is relatively limited. And we actually do need a little bit of arachidonic acid. There are benefits to it. And we will convert the linoleic acid into it at a rate necessary for us to kind of get those health benefits. Okay? So do we understand there? And adding more of the original parent omega-6 there is not going to necessarily cause an increase in the pathways that create the arachidonic acid. So the net effect, even though the AA is inflammatory, what's been found is that overall, on average, these omega-6s are anti-inflammatory. Okay, they're anti-inflammatory. Now, that's looking at it from the close-in perspective, right? This is looking at it at the individual trees, right? People will say, well, sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. That's when we start digging into the trees too much. We start looking for all that inflammation and blaming it, then we find the inflammation's not there. But then we step back and we look at the bigger picture. Why is there such a strong association then? Well, it's because it's not the inflammation itself that's causing it. It's the empty fat calories, okay? It's the empty fat calories. Even though technically omega-6s store as body fat a little less efficiently than some other fats, the simple fact of the matter is, when we take our Western diet, we have a very significant amount of refined carbohydrates, okay? We have too much fat in general, too much refined sugar. All of that causes some insulin resistance. Okay, it also means that we are going to burn all those sugars and things that we're consuming as a preferential fuel source, which is what our body wants to do. And then we're going to be a little more prone to storing the fat that we eat, because that's where our excess calories come from. See where we're about to go with this? What's a really, really easy way to get excess calories? Liquid fats. Okay? And can we absolutely get this from meat and other things? You bet we can. We can absolutely get a fat excess there. And if we do, with that, of course, we'll store as body fat. But it's also in the case of, we talk about liquid calories and refined calories being a little easier to get in. Okay? So from that perspective, if we're consuming all these refined oils added to our foods, that calorie load goes up really, really easily. It's easier to eat excess calories, particularly combined with refined carbs. Now, if we replaced all that with, more animal source fats, we would actually see the same thing. But When we start looking at the units of volume, it's just a very hyperpalatable combination. Okay? To combine all these refined oils with all these refined carbohydrates, it's extremely easy for us to get hyperpalatable foods. It tastes really good. We overeat, we eat excess calories, and then we store any excess fat that we eat. And we need to be clear, we're not storing carbohydrate as body fat in humans, okay? But we will store all the fat that we eat, and if we happen to have access to that really calorie-dense liquid fat, guess what? We are going to store it. We're going to store it. So of course, adding a bunch of oils to your diet is going to potentially cause fat gain, okay? But we need to be clear, it's not causing fat gain at any higher rate than the other stuff. So people are like, oh, we just get away from that and we can just cook everything in tallow or lard or whatever. No, you're still going to run into the same problem. And we need to be clear on that. But that's not what we're doing. We are using all the oils. So therefore, that's what we have access to store. And therefore, that is what we are storing. Like it's pretty straightforward. Okay, pretty straightforward. Here's the other issue we run into with it. It's largely empty calories again. Okay, we come back over to low nutritional value empty calories. And we could say, yeah, but aren't there a lot of benefits to those polyunsaturated fats? Well, sure, in theory, except that if we're cooking them to high temperatures, we're losing a lot of those benefits. So we're turning into taking something that could be beneficial, a whole foods linoleic acid, like we would find in nuts or something, but then we're cooking it. We're removing most of the nutritional value, all that beautiful vitamin E and fiber and antioxidants and polyphenols. We're removing all that. Then we're damaging it with high temperatures, and we end up with just a junk food. Okay, we end up with a junk food, right? And so there's the problem we have. It's that we're back to just a hyper palatable, low nutrition, easy way to store fat that's easy to overeat, and that's why it's a problem. Okay, that's why it's a problem. It's not the other nonsense that it's pro-inflammatory. It's just too dang easy to overeat it, and we store fat as our fat on our body. Now, where does the inflammation then come in? Body fat itself causes inflammation. Okay, that is well documented in all the literature. So if we're eating too much of these liquid fats combined with a bunch of junk, we're gaining body fat easier. We gain more body fat, our total inflammation and all our inflammatory markers in our body go up, insulin resistance goes up, and then we have a big mess. So that's what's going on. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.